Hello and good evening. Thank you guys for tuning in. My name is Attorney Sharnette Noyes here at Noyes and Associates, and welcome to Deportee's Corner. I'm here with my husband Juan Hiron Sanchez, and I'd like to say good evening.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Juan Hiron Sanchez. Here, I am your business manager with Noise and Associates. Welcome once again to your show, Deportee's Corner. This is the podcast where we retell stories of individuals who have been in this country, have been deported, and now find themselves back home. And what they wish they had known prior to that horrible experience of being removed from this country.
Yes, that is true. Deportee's Corner is here. It's just for educational purposes. It's not legal advice. We're not giving legal advice. If you want to individual legal advice for whether your immigration case or whether it's your case, your family case, or a friend or a neighbor, you can call us at 203-572-6748. That's 203-572-6748. You can also WhatsApp us if your family member is living outside of the U.S., because we do practice immigration in all 50 U.S. states and territories and international.
And apart from immigration, we also work in other areas of law as well. We work in real estate.
Bankruptcy, that's another federal area that I can practice in all 50 states. We do a little bit of we do a little bit of personal injury and workers' comp. And the other one that we do a lot more of is estate planning and elder law. That one I can only do that in Connecticut. I have my master's in estate planning and elder law. So I am what you would call qualified to help a person plan for their future. If something should happen, what would be done for their children? So, for example, we have a daughter. If something should happen to both me and my husband, we have a plan in place that our daughter will be taken care of. Who will be taking care of her? How they will be provided for financially. So that's where estate planning and elder law comes in. You don't have to wait till you hit the lottery and win $1 million to create a plan. Because one of the things I always say, the government already created a plan for you. So it's your chance now to modify that plan. So if you die without a will or a trust, the government is pretty much saying how your financial are going to go. Who's going to get your money, or who's going to get your house or car. So if you don't want a family member, a brother, so if you don't have any children or husband, to have your property, but you wanted to go to somebody else, this is your chance to make that decision while you're still alive and in conscious mind. So that's estate planning in a summary. But other than that, immigration is one of the things that we do love to talk about. We here at Noyes and Associates, we're a firm of immigrants. We're immigrants. We do both provide for our immigration community on a whole. We create like a holistic approach. We help you with your papers. If you want to get start a business, we'll help you form that business. We'll help you find a tax accountant to help you manage your business, a bookkeeper to help you manage in your business financial affairs.
So we really consider it the four pillars. So for us, it's not just about getting documented here in this country. So that is immigration, business, real estate, and estate planning. Those are the four foundations that we strive all of our clients here to pursue, because the American dream is not just obtaining an immigration benefit. It's about you being able to give back to this country. Remember, we all pay taxes, whether directly or indirectly, but we want to encourage everyone else, again, as part of their legalization, is to create their own business, buy their home, and learn about the options available for them as far as planning for legacy. Again, Deportee's Corner is a podcast that brings stories to you of success and some failures. And that leads us actually to today's topic.
Yes. So today's topic is about I-601a. It's waivers for unlawful presence. So in that sense, say you came into the U.S. through the border. No one saw you, whether it's through Canada or through the Mexican border. You came in. So you have created an unlawful presence. You have been married. Now your spouse is filing for you, and you need to be able to do consular processing. You will not be able to do your adjustment in the U.S. You have to go back out and re-enter the legal way. With that, if you leave without having this waiver granted, you will be barred for 10 years or 3 years. So you would have to stay outside of the country for now 10 years until you can be able to come back into the U.S.
And that is the scary part.
Yes.
Right? Because the majority of people who come here to the States, right, they come through the border.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a misconception because a lot of people just think it's about coming through Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
There's also coming through a port of entry such as an airport or coming through sea.
Yes.
So even coming through Canada, right? So if you cross the border in any of those given points, you can accumulate unlawful presence. So this is misconception, and we see it all the time here where people are like, well, I came with a visa, as if somehow that makes them different class citizen than those who come through the border, across the border. And it's a misconception. So whether you come in through a visa, let's just talk about that. How could you accumulate unlawful presence even if you enter with a visa?
Okay, so when we entered with a visa, you create unlawful presence because the visa said you're allowed to come in for 6 months. When they give you 6 months and then you spend a day or 3 over the 6 months to maybe a year, at that point you've now created unlawful presence. With that is that you, because you were inspected, you came in with a visa, an immigration officer questioned you, asked you, where are you going? How long are you going? Who you're going to? So that means you were admitted and inspected. The difference between someone coming through the border is that through whether by sea or through Mexico or Canada is that no one saw them, no one spoke to them, and no one inspected them. So that way now they cannot do the adjustment in the U.S. They have to go back out to their home country to do consular processing. But both people, in essence, create unlawful or having unlawful presence. It's just that one of them, based on the way they came in, can do the adjustment in the U.S. and have that unlawful presence kind of waived because they are married or to a U.S. citizen, or they have a U.S. citizen child that is petitioning for them at that moment.
Absolutely. Again, this information is only for educational purposes. This is not legal advice. Cases vary from case to case.
Yes.
But we do want to talk about this topic because a lot of people have a lot of confusion. The number one is that if you find yourself in this situation of a lawful presence waiver, is that you will have to return back home. Mm-hmm. So if you're from Jamaica, and we marry, I'm the U.S. citizen, and I'm saying, hey, you're lucky, aren't you?
I know, I ain't lucky.
You married me. I'm going to give you some papers, but now you required a waiver. Mm-hmm. So you filed the unlawful presence waiver, and now you have to go to Kingston. You have to leave the country. And people are so afraid of returning back home because rightly so. They have heard of some cases, some nightmares, where people do get stuck once they're abroad. But those cases can vary. Like, for example, let's talk about the guy who just had too much fun going back home.
Oh, yeah. And he had this is a perfect example. He had unlawful presence, was married to a U.S. citizen. They did the waiver application, got it approved. He went back home for his interview. So because he hasn't been back home in months, years, not even months, but years.
Like 15 years he hasn't been back home.
He was with his friends and everybody, they're celebrating, and he started to do some smoking. Marijuana is illegal federally. It may be legal in some states in the country where you're going back to, but still federal law, it's illegal. And when he went to do his medical for his interview, they found marijuana in his system. He went for the interview, they took the passport, they take everything and said they're going to call him back within 2 weeks. When that time come, they said, we still have to do investigation. We're still reviewing your case. And then it was about a year later, they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna need to do a new waiver because that one has been denied, expired. So now he's now sitting there in his home country, telling his wife, you have to go redo this waiver, which it's taken around about 3 years. Somewhat can take up to 5 years. So now he's going to be in his home country waiting again for this waiver to be approved.
And then waiting the time for a new appointment
Yeah.
to be performed. So again, it doesn't matter whether you're in Hawaii, you're in Alaska, you're in Puerto Rico, Florida, California, we're able to help you. Immigration law is federal law, and regardless of where you are, we can help. Please do not go at it alone. There's so many stories of nightmares of people who just like to Google things or go on YouTube, or they'll say, hey, my cousin did it and he did this, or my aunt did it, my neighbor did it. Each case is individual. Again, we seek to bring these stories to you for educational purposes. You know, we do make a little bit of fun when we're talking about, you know, these situations. And it's honestly because, and we were talking about it this morning, it's like sometimes you want to cry because there's so much things that happen, so many things that people do that it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, I can't believe this is happening. This is so ridiculous. We have to tell these stories. And this is what we seek to bring with this podcast. It's an opportunity to share with you the situations that people who have made mistakes or poor choices, whether they have gone it alone, they have hired a notario on the street, someone to do it on the cheap, or even have been cheated out by an attorney.
Yes.
We seek to bring you education, knowledge is power, for you to be able to become more aware about what your rights are and to ultimately make informed decisions as an individual seeking to legalize their status here in the States. Now, this may not apply to you. It may be something that maybe is your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, a neighbor, someone who can benefit. So we always want you guys to please like, share, subscribe. We are available on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. We seek to bring you these stories to inspire you, to motivate you, and most importantly, to help you avoid ending in Deportee's Corner. Okay? Once you are deported again, there's so many, it's so frustrating. Not only but for people who have been dependent on you, right? You send them money back home, but then everything that you're leaving behind, you left your job behind, your car, your home. You know, we've had families who have lost their properties here because now that they're back home, they don't have the money. They're not making US dollars anymore. They can't afford the upkeep, the taxes, the insurance, and then they end up losing everything that they worked so hard for, or even worse, leaving the responsibility to your spouse who's here, who now has to manage taking care of the kids, paying all the bills, and then supporting you back home because no one hires you. So please give us a call. Our phone number is 203-572-6748. Again, 203-572-6748. We are also available via social media and WhatsApp.
Yes. One other thing about the waivers, as we talk about it, the waivers look into, basically, it looks at your entire life. First of all, one of the things you need is a qualifying relative in the U.S., whether it's a green card holder or a citizen, and that relative is a spouse or a parent, elderly parent. And they take into consideration the totality of the circumstances.
And let's make sure, because this is very important, guys, so listen up. Listen up. Who can be a qualifying relative for a waiver?
Again, that could be your spouse, if your spouse is a green card holder or a citizen. So say, for example, your child had petitioned for you, over 21 years old, petitioned for you. And then you got married and your spouse is a green card holder, but your spouse has some medical issues or other circumstance, situation in totality. That spouse can become your qualifying relative. Also, your elderly parents, if they are a citizen or a green card holder, they can be your qualifying relative as well.
Because we have to make sure, again, with these types of waivers. And for the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about different types of waivers available. This one particularly was enacted by Congress, or the laws, right, to prevent chain migration. Can you please explain a little bit more about what chain migration is, and why is it that, again, a child can petition you, but they cannot be a qualifying relative? They cannot help you once it comes to this part of the process.
Because chain migration is that if if the child who petitioned you, the 21-year-old, can give you be qualifying relative and you get approved, then you become a green card holder. Then you can also file for another family. You can become a citizen and be able to file for a sibling, and then that sibling and their children can come in under the petition that you filed for them.
So in essence, right, this was kind of for the people who come here to this country, right? We've had cases where, they're like 9 months pregnant. They're holding in that baby just to cross the line to give birth here in America, and then say, hey, 21 years later, that son, that daughter is going to file for me and I'm going to be groovy. Well, Congress came in and say, nope, you came here, you had a baby, whether you got pregnant outside in your country or you came here, and we're going to not let you finish your immigration process. You may be able to get past the first step of a family petition, but once it comes to a waiver, again, U.S. citizen or green card holder, husband or parent, children do not qualify or cannot help you for this process. And again,
yes, that's if you came in without being inspected.
Correct.
So if you came in with inspection,
meaning if you came in with a visa,
yes, came in with a visa, then your child can petition for you and you can get your green card and do the adjustment here. But if you came in without no inspection,
and that applies to, let's make it this clarification, right? So let's say you are from Haiti and you receive TPS and you got a travel document, and maybe you came in undocumented, but now that you have TPS, you get a travel document, you travel now back home and came back in and you were inspected. Meaning someone at a port of entry, whether it's the border, the airport, or through a port of entry, sea, driving the car, stamped your passport saying, hey, welcome to America. We see that you have a travel document, you have permission to be here, you have a visa, we accept you, and now you've been inspected. Then you won't need a waiver. Then you could do an adjustment of status, which means that you can stay here within the U.S. without needing a waiver and without going to your country's embassy. So again, this is for educational purposes. If you have individual cases, please give us a call, 203-572-6748, 203-572-6748. Again, the topic that we're discussing today has to do with unlawful presence waivers. And it's a huge topic, a huge issue, because people are so afraid of having to go back home after having been in this country without having been inspected, and nobody wants to go home. They're like, hey, suppose I go and I get stuck, or suppose I get denied.
Yeah, and the thing is, because this is now their home, because you've been in the U.S. for 20 years, 30 years, this is home. So telling someone that it's not something fun that we like to tell people, because I notice every time I have to tell someone, like, okay, your kid or your husband can file for you, but because you entered without inspection, we have to go do a waiver and you're going to have to go back to your home country. And I see the fear and the panic, because you're like, what if it doesn't work? And I have to tell them, once you file in the 601a waiver, you don't leave the country until it's approved. So if it's been denied, you're not outside of the country. You're still here. There's still immigration where you are, but you don't have to have the fear that you have to go back to your home country and wait for the application to be approved. No, you will be here in the U.S. and waiting for that application to approve. Once it's approved and they schedule that interview in the embassy in your home country, that's when you will leave and go for that interview. And then if everything is good, you can come back. For example, I had another story where a person was here, mom filed petition for him, got it approved. He made a lot of crazy mistakes along the line. Went back, got arrested at the airport, then went to the embassy. But before he went to the embassy, got somebody to give him a fake police record clearance and said he was never arrested. While immigration did the interview, they said, "Oh, we got to hold it back for 2 weeks." After 2 weeks, they called him back in, and they just said, "Oh, we still have to do some more investigation." Till when it comes to find, they started asking him about that arrest. And it just showed that false and misrepresentation.
It's such, again, it's sad, right, when we hear a lot of these stories. So again, please like, share, subscribe. We are so happy about our viewers who are watching us. Please make sure that whether it's not you who have this issue, but maybe a brother, a sister, a neighbor, a cousin, maybe your enemy. Hey, let's try to help each other out. Let's educate each other. Let's make each other aware of what the rights are, of having people get back on track. There's nothing, sadder than, for instance, we were out this morning driving for a meeting, and we drove past an area where a lot of journeywomen stand on the side of the road that are day laborers.
Yes.
So it was so cold this morning. They were out there, and a police car literally stopped in front of the grocery store where they were buying their coffee. And you should just see the looks in these folks' faces. They just backed the corner. They're living in shadows. They're afraid.
Yes.
They have immigration issues. And instead of addressing the problem, which we understand, we deal with this every day, the fear of the uncertainty, how people gamble with their lives. They just pray to God, "Hey, God, please protect me. Let me leave my house, arrive to my job safe, and let me return back to my home safe." Well, every time they see a cop, you just see them watching over their shoulder. They're watching over, their shadows. They're so afraid because they know that they're undocumented. They know they're breaking the law. And at any given moment, you're driving without a license.
Yes.
Maybe you just rubbed somebody the wrong way. Maybe you crossed, the street when it was red. Like, we've heard so many stories of the police or ICE or even U.S. citizens or green card holders or even other undocumented folks who call the cops on each other, who call the immigration on each other. There's no reason to live in fear. Please educate yourself. Please give us a call, 203-572-6748. Do not be afraid. Empower yourself. And please see what legal alternatives are available for you. We can help you regardless of where you are and even abroad. And again, we have sought to bring to you these types of topics on waivers because we're going to be discussing next week a different type of waiver. And we are going to be just looking forward to, again, creating more content, having the discussions that you want to have so that you can protect your loved ones and those who you care about.
Yes.
Now, okay. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
So what are some of the common consequences that, as an office, we try to argue in terms of these types of cases?
Well, we try to argue whether the person has any medical condition. That's like one of the biggest things we try to push is, does a qualifying relative has medical issue that would prevent them from going with their loved one back to that person's home country? Then we look at the family separation. What is the economic situation in that home country versus what their lifestyle here in the U.S. is?
So just readjusting. So if I speak English, I don't speak Patois. I don't want to go to Jamaica.
It's still English.
Wait. I won't be able to understand Jamaicans when they're speaking. So if, let's say, just for an example, right? I'm a foreigner. I'm a foreigner.
That doesn't speak Spanish.
No. I don't speak Patois. I don't speak Jamaican. I'm going to go to Jamaica, and I don't know what's going on. What do you say? I'm a coolie. I don't know anything about Jamaica. And then I'm stuck in Jamaica because I love my wife. I'm not going to let her go back by herself. So I'm going to go ahead and move. And let's say, I have asthma. I have, diabetes. Now, I've lost my health insurance. Don't have access to my medication because in Jamaica, if you don't have the money to pay the doctor or to pay for that medicine, you're hit. So me as a U.S. citizen would suffer an extreme hardship following my lovely wife back to Jamaica, which, don't get me wrong, I love Jamaica, but I would also be a target to common crime. And this doesn't just apply to Jamaica. It would be the same thing for if you live in Mexico, Guatemala, Ecuador, Philippines, Africa, Kenya. Africa and Kenya is the same. Well, Kenya is in Africa. So China, in Asia, Russia, we're suffering extreme hardship because I wouldn't speak the language. I'm going to lose access to the court system, the legal system, the protections of this great, beautiful country named the United States of America, which again is our second home or our first home because we've not migrated here. We still love back home, but the reality is that the country that you left behind as a child is no
not the
longer the
same.
country that's the same. Why? Because you're now considered a foreigner. They hear you speak and they can say, hey, you're not from here. Or hey, you're from the US, you must have money. I'm gonna kidnap you. Or I'm gonna take your kids. Or I'm gonna do something because I know that somebody in America is gonna pay a ransom for you. And these are the realities, and this is why the reason why so many people are afraid to return because they don't know what awaits for them. Maybe they left 15 years ago, 20 years ago. They don't know life back home anymore. And to subject their children, again, who have
May
a U.S.
have medical
education,
issues.
may have medical issues. How do you, as a family, abandon your roots here in this beautiful, great country and return to uncertainty?
Yeah, so those are the things, some of the things that we argue in the waivers and put them. We don't guarantee any waivers that it's going to get approved. We do our due diligence to put, we call it the kitchen sink method, to put everything in there and hoping that something will convince that officer who's reviewing your case that you deserve to be merit the favorable decision of getting your case approved.
Absolutely. So, we definitely want to talk about family ties. Like, what kind of life have you built here in America?
Yes.
Whether you own a business, you own a home, you have family. All of my family's here in America. If I were to relocate to Jamaica now, I'm going to suffer. My family here is going to suffer. Maybe even in the case of separation, where my wife's in Jamaica and now I'm here in the States now, I'm like, oh my gosh, my wife, she's going to be okay. I have to now take care of my daughter, drop her off to school, bring her to the doctor, go to work, make a living, and still support you because you're now a foreigner or you're now, not stable at home. You can't support for us to be able to pay the mortgage, pay the car note, pay our bills. So our family is going to suffer.
Yeah.
We also look at another factor is social and cultural impact. Like I said, I don't speak Patois. I'm a coolie. I don't know Aguan. I'm just, I need my wife to translate for me. And then it's kind of like we are at risk again, just because the community ties that we have here, we are involved in our church, in our daughter's school, uprooting our livelihood, our life here, and returning to Jamaica is going to give us and put us on a disadvantage. Another one is
economic impact, which is the same thing. It's like the burden of going back to the home country. Well, we're using Jamaica as the country for now. Going back to Jamaica, you might have to go buy a house or find somewhere to live. You don't know what your job. You're leaving your job here and then going to Jamaica to find a job. You're not going to find something that's comparable to what your salary you're getting. If you're getting $100,000 salary here, going there, you may not find a job to give you $100,000 salary. They may find something that's only $20,000. And what?
Yeah, that's you're being
What are you
very
gonna do?
generous. Like it's way less than that, honestly.
No, but it's what I'm saying is that the cost of living is going to be so different, and the jobs are not going to be the same. Your health condition, the healthcare condition, and the country conditions. You take those things into consideration. The crime situation in the country. Well, what is the country condition and so forth? Like, what's the crime rate towards foreigners versus the crime rate towards those that are resident of the country? Because in every country, whether just like what Erica is saying that her aunt and uncles that left 40 years ago, they have not visited again because they have that fear. The 80 they left is not the same as today. It's the same
Right.
thing with some people in Jamaica. We have people who talk to them like, why? Oh, I don't know. The Jamaica I used to know is not the same anymore. You can't even go outside without somebody trying to mug you or somebody trying to take something from you. And I've heard of stories.
Even family members set you up.
Family
You know-
members set you up. Because I remember I heard a story where this couple, they went back home and then their son picked them up at the airport. and dropped them off at home. And it's the father said, okay, he took out a little bit of cash he had and give the son. And so, oh, see you later. In the middle of the night, the father heard something like somebody's coming in the house, thinking that somebody's coming to rob them. He pull out the gun and shoot. When he took the mask off, he just killed his own kid because his son came back to rob him. So it's like that fear you have to put into these waivers to show that there's the fear of the going back, of being harmed, or just because you just don't know.
And also, again, it's the damage or the extreme hardship on me as a U.S. citizen, the psychological impact. I'm going to be depressed without my lovely wife. Like, who's going to rub my feet at night?
You're right.
I'm going to be anxious. Like, oh my God, like, what's going to happen? Like, our daughter, somebody needs to pick her up at school. I'm at work, or I'm stuck in traffic. Like, those are the hardships. Those are the difficulties that we are going to face with being separated. And again, or relocating to Jamaica. So what we're seeking in all these waivers is relocation or reunification, rather.
Yes.
So again, not separation,
But
not
to
me
reunify.
relocating to Jamaica, but to have our family reunified, have them stay here, have my wife finally get her green card, finally be able to be here in this country, safe and sound, where we can continue a life of prosperity in America, which is our home. Is the land that is gonna give our daughter the best education possible,
Yes.
the best healthcare possible, and for us to continue to live and build our lives here, because it's gonna be a hardship to me as a U.S. citizen to leave America behind, again, leave all the
But it's a
protections and
hardship.
move there.
It's a hardship on you. For example, would be on me, the immigrant who had been here for 20 years. This is where roots has been, so it's kind of like you're going back. Like, just as with anything, because when you look at the news and you see the things that's going on, whether it's in like Haiti, Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, Honduras, El Salvador, Russia, wherever it is, when you see those things, it puts you too also in a panic mode, a psychological mode. Some people rather stay under the roof of fear and said, I'm not going anywhere. I'd rather not deal with my papers, because if I have to go back, I'd rather not deal with it. But because sometimes they don't know that there may be a waiver, you may go to one lawyer and they say, no, there's no chance. I wouldn't say just stop at one. Seek out another advice. Get a second opinion. Just like within the doctors. When you go to a doctor and doctor told you you're sick with this disease, you're not going to take that one doctor advice if you don't really feel that way. You might want to seek a second opinion. It's the same thing when it comes to with immigration. Because again, not every lawyer does humanitarian. Some will tell, like I had a client, someone came for a consultation and I said, you have a perfect VAWA case. He said, no, I don't, because the lawyer told me I don't have one. I'm like, maybe that lawyer doesn't understand VAWA and don't know VAWA. Another person, oh, I don't have them because I don't have a police report. I can't qualify for VAWA. That lawyer may not do a lot of VAWA to understand VAWA to see where there are loopholes around the police report. It's great to have a police report, but it's not all that your case does not hang on the police report alone. So it's always best to seek out second opinion when it comes to your immigration case. If somebody say no, then seek somebody else. And if everybody you go to say no, you have no option, there's nothing that I can say, okay, you have done your due diligence and now you realize that there's nothing there for you. You just have to wait. And then it's more so doing that one we call the Russian roulette. It's the cancellation of removal. Put yourself in removal
The
proceedings.
nuclear option.
That's like your nuclear option if there's nothing else, but you've been in the U.S. for over 10 years, no criminal record, you've been a good moral citizen, you've been paying taxes, you've been upholding the law, and there's no other option, but that's like your nuclear one. You want to hit that nuclear button and put yourself in removal proceedings and bring it again there too. You have to build that case to show that immigration judge whether that he or she should use discretionary measures and grant you that relief. So there are options. as I'm saying that, is just that there's so many options. Just like Sharon said, yes, the crime rate is really high and the medical is really bad. That is true, and that's one of the things we take for granted here in America is that healthcare is it's really important.
Healthcare is expensive here in this country.
It's expensive here,
Yeah.
but if you go back to your home country, it's like triple, quadruple the amount. And then sometimes the healthcare system is mediocre. They don't if you don't have the money, you can't get the best care. You get the mediocre care, and then your health is at risk if you also have health issue.
Right. So again, as a U.S. citizen, as a green card holder, that qualifying relative, spouse, or parent would suffer in that event of, again, relocation, separation. We're seeking reunification of the family unit so that everyone can maintain themselves here. If you or anyone is find themselves in this situation, please give us a call. Our phone number is
203-572-6748. That's 203-572-6748. You can also text us at that number on WhatsApp. So if your friends or anyone that's outside of the country and they have an immigration issue that they want to seek about, they can also text us on WhatsApp.
We would definitely say, please, 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 please do not be afraid. Every information, as far as, with us, it's confidential. We want to make sure that families receive the best information possible, and more important, to bring you the stories of previous cases, both success and failures. We want you to realize that you're not alone in this struggle. You don't have to continue to be like those folks we saw today, again, where every time the police shows up, they have to hide, they have to run away. It's really sad when you see that, when you have to gamble, when you have to just hope, believe, and pray. Don't get me wrong. We have to pray, right? We have to
Yes.
have faith. But if you can help yourself get out of that situation to gain some peace, it's not going to be a full solution to your problems, but you can at least get some liberty. Get the ability to, again, leave your house in peace, go to the grocery store in peace, drive, do all those things that we take for granted. But
Yeah.
again, a lot of these folks put themselves at risk by not addressing their situation. Unfortunately, when they're not successful or when time hits, they end up in deportee's corner. Now, we know that the current administration is not really acting on enforcing immigration law, but sooner or later, there is going to be a change in government, particularly with the issues that we're having with the economy, with the war. A lot of people are not that happy with the Democratic Party. It's likely that we're going to have a Republican president next, and we know that just like with the government who's in play, right? There is a need to enforce the laws, and this is not something that we made. Sometimes we feel like we're the Grim Reaper, we're the bearer of bad news when we're talking about your options, your legal rights, because people are afraid and they want to avoid. They're like, man, why are you talking about that? Like,
Yeah.
I'm just playing a game here. Like, I'm just playing Russian roulette. If they catch me, they catch me. If they don't, they don't. Or, oh, well, I'm only going to be here for 4 years anyway. I'm going to go back home, and then guess what? 20 years goes by, and you're still here. And you haven't legalized. And you sent all your money back home. And you go home, and there's nothing there waiting for you because people them trick you. Like, please, give us a call. 203-572-6748. 203-572-6748. We believe in the 4 pillars, which is immigration, business, real estate, and trust and estates. Let our family take care of your family. We're a firm of immigrants for immigrants.
Yes. Thank you. Have a good night. And share, like, and subscribe on YouTube. Until next week, Thursday, for the English version. On Tuesdays, we will be back with our Spanish.
Español.
Espanol.